It's time for Debrief, your weekly roundup of TRT World's top stories.
So reports of explosions in the capital.
And welcome to TRT.
Hello, welcome to TRT World Broadcasting Live.
Hello and welcome to TRT World, live from Istanbul.
Start with our breaking news coverage of Iran's retaliatory strikes targeting several positions in Israel, worth around 200 missiles.
Israel declared war when it attacked Iran without provocation, and Iran is now responding.
Tehran says it has the right to self-defense under the UN Charter.
For exercising self-defense, you have a few conditions. First, that there has to be an armed attack or a grave or imminent danger of having an armed attack.
Israel says it is conducting preemptive strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities before Tehran got any closer to building an atomic weapon.
We will not allow them to walk away safely from this great crime they have committed.
Israel and Iran are launching fresh attacks on each other, killing scores of civilians and raising fears of a wider conflict.
Emergency services in Tel Aviv and further south in Bat Yam are racing to find survivors.
We have rescued dozens of people.
That was in response to this. An enormous blaze from the Shahran oil depot in northwest Tehran and flames rising from Iran's giant South Pars gas field.
There's also the possibility of Tehran shutting down international transits via the Hormuz Strait. 30% of the world's traded oil passes through the strait every single day.
Trump spent the day fielding phone calls from other world leaders, including Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin, all agreeing nuclear negotiations are the way forward. But he's always said he doesn't want a wider war with the Middle East that involves American troops.
Donald Trump says he's not looking for a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, but something better, which he described as a real end to the conflict.
But they're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
The military experts are suggesting that they are keeping an eye on these B-2 bombers stationed at Diego Garcia, because if they start to move, perhaps potentially the United States might be using those to reach those underground facilities.
The only person who can de-escalate this war that only seems to be escalating is Donald Trump.
I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
And caution hangs thick in the air.
The threat to assassinate the Supreme Leader Khamenei is continuing from Israel.
I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
In case of an attack on the Bushehr nuclear power plant, a direct hit would result in a very high release of radioactivity to the environment.
Thousand-strong crowds in every state on Saturday.
The so-called No Kings protests took aim at President Donald Trump's policies, especially in light of his recent deployment of the military to quell protests in Los Angeles after his crackdown on undocumented migrants there.
Government gone wild, threat of fascism, people trying to, speak up for those who are challenged speaking up right now.
The mistreatment of people that have come to this country for a better life, which is pretty much what this country was built on.
Trump groups have planned nearly 2,000 demonstrations of varying sizes. Organizers said the rallies would be the largest since Donald Trump returned to the White House.
And organizers feel actually that this protest will be the biggest one of the past week.
Here in New York City is really kind of supersized. This is the largest of several demonstrations across New York State.
Trump laughed off the protests.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved.
He has been challenging every informal norm that we have in this country.
President Trump has hosted a rare military parade celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. About 7,000 troops walking down Constitution Avenue on Saturday. The No Kings protests organized specifically to counter that military parade in Washington.
The end goal is to make a statement. If those changes are not made, then it is the goal to elect people who do represent what we want.
And it's even more top stories from around the world. Check them out with the news in brief. Israel's atrocities continue to fuel a never-ending nightmare for Gazans. one from which it seems they will not be saved, and one from which they can't wake up. Rights groups report famine setting in, with most food aid blocked since March. The World Health Organization reports mass casualties, tanks, drones, and guns opening fire on the starving, even as they wait in line at designated aid distribution sites.
There's a constant correlation with the positions of the 4 announced food distribution spots all along the strip and the mass casualty incidents.
They're massacred even for the hope of a meal.
Today, the occupation committed a massive massacre against civilians seeking food aid at an aid distribution centre, and these massacres are occurring every day.
Tens of thousands in Gaza are malnourished, including children nearing death by starvation. What's left of overwhelmed hospitals are desperately undersupplied. As Israel's attacks on Iran distract the world, the U.S. vetoes even symbolic condemnation at the UN. Aid flotillas and solidarity marches are shut down by Israel and neighboring nations before they can even get close. It all leaves Gazans with one choice: a bullet or an empty bowl. Last Friday, independent and Israeli media reported Israeli occupation forces announced a total blockade on all Palestinian cities in the occupied West Bank until further notice. Whole towns and villages have been sealed off from the outside world behind iron gates, added checkpoints, and concrete barriers, cutting off access to markets, hospitals, and jobs. It follows escalating military and illegal settler attacks on occupied West Bank residents since October 7th of 2023.
I have official ownership papers, certified by the Israeli court. Since the war, a settler built a road near the house, offered money, and when we refused, he threw trash and stones on our door. Yesterday, he gave me 24 hours to leave. Today, I left. I feared for my children.
Now under total siege, Palestinian families are even easier targets for Israel's systematic displacement strategy, one seeking the rapid expansion of illegal settlements on Palestinian land. And the last week has seen Russia fire more than 400 drones, missiles, and rockets in one of the most crushing attacks on Kiev in 3.5 years of war.
Terrible explosion. The impact was massive. We jumped out of the bed. It was a strike. It was a missile. It was terrifying, so scary.
Between Saturday and Monday, 27 sites were bombed in the capital, alongside other parts of Ukraine. Nearly 20 people were killed and dozens injured as of Thursday.
June 18th will officially be a day of mourning here in Kyiv. In a country that is no stranger to the harsh realities of war, the declaration is a sign of just how big this attack was and just how shaken it has left the people of the capital.
Trump blew off a planned meeting with Zelensky as he walked out on the G7, blaming the tensions between Israel and Iran. But his reported refusal to sign a G7 joint statement with other leaders condemning Russia in support of Ukraine shows little sign of a united front and even less of the leverage needed to end the war. And now to the Pacific Ring of Fire, where Indonesia's Mount Lewatobi Laki-Laki blew twice this week. Major eruptions on Tuesday and Wednesday launched ash columns up to 16 kilometers up into the sky, prompting several evacuations from nearby villages. No casualties were reported, but dozens of flights were canceled and the nation placed on high alert. Flights to Bali resumed on Thursday, but officials warned that the mountain may not be done. And we pop in with some of the best bits from our programs: Africa Matters, Just 2 Degrees, Money Talks, and Sports.
Nigeria has the highest number of farmer and herder deaths in West and Central Africa over the past decade.
Unprecedented and unprovoked. That's how locals describe the brutal onslaught that has left Yelwata reeling. For at least 4 hours last Friday, gunmen laid siege to this village, shooting, hacking, and setting corpses ablaze.
They came well prepared, shooting anyone in sight.
It's the deadliest assault in the region this year. State authorities put the official death toll at just 59. But village officials say they've recovered and buried at least 170 bodies so far. Right behind me, inside this house, lie the decomposing bodies of at least 10 people still unburied. For many here, protecting their community is priority, whatever the cost.
Bangladesh's capital Dhaka. The air is thick.
It's a health threat that millions of people breathe in every single day.
But the scenery changes in northwest Bangladesh, where rice fields stretch wide. And one way change is happening is in the local schools. But this is no ordinary classroom. Here, classrooms have been forced to evolve. They glide across rivers and are powered by the sun.
And it has different types of spaces inside. It has books, computer with internet access. Children and young people can borrow books. They can learn computers. So it's a kind of space that was missing in the community, and spend the time reading books, learning computers.
It's an idea born from necessity, now a lifeline for many.
As Israel's war with Iran continues, the toll on its economy mounts up. It's facing daily military costs reaching $733 million, according to the Israeli Army's chief of staff.
Israel's 2025 economic growth has been cut from 4.3% to 3.6%, an optimistic projection assuming reserve call-ups decrease by the third quarter.
It's obviously taking a toll on the Israeli economy. But so far, the government has really focused on classical economic tools, with other words, cutting budgets, increasing taxes and fees. But the problem with that is that not all budgets were cut. Those that are politically sensitive, with other words, related to the ultra-nationalists and the ultra-conservatives in the government, have been left intact.
Pakistan is already feeling the heat, with fuel prices going up and parts of the country facing shortages due to disruptions along the Pakistan-Iran border.
Pakistan imports nearly 80% of its oil, so any spike in global oil prices immediately affects the domestic market. Since Israeli airstrikes on Iran, global oil markets have become volatile.
The US Open at Oakmont produced a final day as punishing as it was unpredictable, with torrential rain, leaderboard meltdowns, and one extraordinary breakthrough as American JJ Spawn weathered the storm to claim his first major title.
Scotland's Robert McIntyre rode the storm, final round of 68 to post one over in the clubhouse. Some of the best in the world undone by the horrible conditions. Then Spawn struck. A perfect drive on the 17th, 2 putts for birdie, and suddenly he led the US Open outright.